destroy lives, that will change history, 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 that will change history. That will be the most beautiful day.
All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in this evening for our Ukraine War Report for day 146 of the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. Current date is July 19th, 2022. It's now the 20th in Ukraine, so good morning to everybody in Europe and good morning, Ukraine. We're going to get everybody caught up on what's been going on, not only over the past 12 to 24 hours, but as it is our first report of the week, we will be going through and giving everybody a little bit of a recap of everything that's happened over about the past 7 days to get everybody caught up and to build some context there. And then, of course, we'll jump into our primary headlines for today, get everybody caught up on what's been going on over the past about 12 to 24 hours. After our main headlines, we'll hop over to our primary community aggregated reports from our intel analysts over on the Discord server at discord.gg/Nemico. Then, of course, after that, we will end our show with our open source reports from resources like Live UA Map, amongst others, and then cap everything off with a little bit of a Q&A session from our live chats both on YouTube, Twitch, and Discord. To everybody that's tuning in this evening, again, I thank you for taking some time out of your day to come and get caught up on what's been going on in the world. We're going to get everybody caught up on everything, but before we do that, make sure to hit that like button. Best way to get the algorithm's attention. Share this stream if you like this content. It's the best way to get this information out into the hands of more people. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button to get notified when new videos and streams go live, but just hitting that subscribe button isn't enough. You also have to hit that notification bell and make sure you hit the all option under the notification bell to make sure you are getting notified when our new videos and streams go live. It looks like this evening a lot of you actually got your notifications for once, so that's good. That's a good thing. Without further ado, we'll go ahead. We'll get everybody caught up on what's been going on over about the past 7 days. It's been a very busy week in Europe, primarily in Ukraine. Back on July 11th, on the same day that Russian forces attacked Kharkiv, Ukraine's second biggest city, Russian President Vladimir Putin expanded fast-track Russian citizenship to all Ukrainians, as we reported early last week. On July 12th, the Ukrainian military reported that it had destroyed a Russian ammunition depot in southern Ukraine in a rocket strike. Russia said the massive blast occurred when a mineral fertilizer storage facility exploded. We all know now from looking at the evidence, the satellite imagery, that was in fact a ammunition depot that was struck there. Speaking of ammo depots, in tonight's community poll that we are running over in the YouTube live chat, we're asking the audience, do you think that Ukraine's strikes on Russian ammo depots are starting to have an effect on the front line combat? Head over there to our YouTube live chat to submit your vote in tonight's community poll. And then when we get over to our community aggregated news later in the show, we'll go over that poll's results. Moving forward to July 13th, officials from Russia, Ukraine, Turkey, and the United Nations met in Istanbul to try and hammer out an agreement to resume Ukrainian grain exports across the Black Sea, as we had been reporting on for many days and weeks. Of course, that's been a really a huge concern, I should say, for many countries, is getting that Ukrainian grain out of those ports to the countries that need it the most. Moving forward to July 14th, that strike occurred in Vinnytsia in central Ukraine, in that city, killing more than 20 people and wounding more than 100. On the same day, at a meeting at the International Criminal Court in The Hague, 45 countries pledged to cooperate investigating possible Russian war crimes in Ukraine. Jumping forward to July 15th, a separatist official announced the death of British citizen Paul Uri, detained in April by Russian-backed separatists in Ukraine, who accused him of being a mercenary. Uri died on July 10th, the Donetsk official said, and British Foreign Secretary Liz Truss said Uri was undertaking humanitarian work while in Ukraine. July 16th, Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu ordered the Russian military to, quote, further intensify the actions of units in all operational areas, the defense ministry has said. We have yet to see that intensification, so to speak. Of course, this is directly related to tonight's live chat poll. There's a lot of speculation that these strikes, these HIMARS strikes, particularly on these ammunition depots, are now starting to have effects on that frontline combat effectiveness of those Russian forces. Moving forward to July 17th, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky fired 2 senior officials, as is tonight's primary headline here. The state security chief and prosecutor general, alleging collaboration with Russian forces and treason by their employees. We'll have more on that when we jump into our main headline topics here in just a moment. On Monday, yesterday, we weren't able to bring you a report due to some technical issues here in the studio. It's hot, absolutely stifling heat where we are located, and our studio was almost unbearably hot, and some of my equipment was overheating, so we were unable to bring you guys yesterday's report. But on Monday, European Union foreign ministers met in Brussels to discuss continued financial and military support for Ukraine. Following that up today, Putin visited leaders in Iran. He's expected to meet with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, as well as Iran's leaders. Moving forward, tomorrow, a subcommittee hearing of the House of Foreign Affairs Committee will focus Wednesday on, quote, accountability for atrocity crimes committed by Russia in Ukraine. We hope to bring you reports on that tomorrow. Moving on to today's primary headlines. Just get everybody caught up on the main topics for today. Of course, our breaking story this evening is the Ukraine's parliament has confirmed the removal of Ivan Bakanov and Irina Venedikova from their posts in the Ukrainian government. There was confusion when on Sunday night, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said he had dismissed them, but on Monday, a presidential aide said that they were suspended. The Verkhovna Rada has confirmed their exits today. Zelensky's childhood friend, Ivan Bakanov, will be replaced by Vasyl Meliuk, a former first deputy head of the SBU, who led the anti-corruption and organized crime unit of the agency's Central Directorate. Venediktova is expected to remain in some form of capacity at the Prosecutor General's office. However, we will have to wait to get more information on that in the coming days. Again, they've removed 2 of these officials from their posts, citing possible collaboration with Russian forces and possibly even treason. So again, that's a big headline topic for today. The European Union is set to add Russia's biggest bank, Sberbank, and the head of giant zinc and copper firm UMMC to its blacklist of individuals and companies accused of supporting Moscow's invasion of Ukraine. A new list of 48 officials and 9 entities to be blacklisted, prepared by the EU Foreign Affairs Service, also includes leaders of the, quote, Night Wolves motorcycle club, actors, politicians, the deputy head of a Russian security service, family members of sanctioned oligarchs, and military people. Again, big shout out to everybody that's tuning in this evening. We're just getting started here with our primary headline topics. Moving on from that, Russian President Vladimir Putin and his Turkish counterpart Recep Tayyip Erdogan will discuss the export of Ukrainian grain at their meeting in Tehran on Tuesday, as I just reported a moment ago. We're still waiting to get more information about how that meeting went in Tehran, and we'll be bringing you that hopefully with tomorrow's report. Russian forces shelled a town in eastern Ukraine, killing 6 people, according to Ukrainian officials. Early in the morning, this is a quote directly from that report, early in the morning, the town of Toretsk was shelled. A 2-story building with people inside was destroyed. Ukraine's State Emergency Services said, another quote from that report saying, rescuers found and recovered the bodies of 5 dead people in total. 3 people were rescued from the rubble, and 1 of them died in the hospital. Russia has struggled to sustain effective offensive combat power, and the problem is likely becoming increasingly acute, according to British military intelligence. It says, quote, as well as dealing with severe undermanning, Russian planners face a dilemma between deploying reserves to the Donbass or defending against Ukrainian counterattacks in the southwestern Kherson sector. Again, I believe a lot of this is also related to the strikes that we've been seeing on their ammo depots, weapon caches, and forward command posts, again, in recent weeks, especially from these HIMARS missile system strikes. Again, those referring to those Western weapon systems, which are now in the combat theater in Ukraine. There are currently unverified reports. There are explosions in occupied Kherson. Video clips being circulated on social media appear to suggest that the targets may have been the Kherson International Airport at Choronobyivka and one of the bridges that cross the Dnipro River. Again, I hope to have some more information on that when we hop into our community aggregated reporting, as well as our open source reporting later in the evening. At least 1 person has been killed in a Russian missile strike on the center of the eastern Ukrainian city of Kramatorsk on Tuesday, the regional governor said. Pavlo Kirilenko, governor of the Donetsk region, said the attack caused loud explosions and a fire in a residential building. Again, I hope to have some more information on that later in the show. Ukraine has received the bodies of another 45 servicemen in accordance with the norms of the Geneva Convention, according to a statement from the Ministry of Reintegration of the Temporarily Occupied Territories of Ukraine. So again, they have received in a exchange of bodies 45 Ukrainian servicemen that have been killed. A 16-year-old Ukrainian boy has described how he was held hostage by Russian soldiers for 90 days as he heard other prisoners being tortured in a nearby cell. His vivid account of his time in captivity is a depiction of violent interrogations involving brutal beatings and confirms other reports of Russian and pro-Russian separatist forces mistreating detainees. Russia has claimed to have killed at least 260 members of the Ukrainian forces in the last 24 hours. So again, this goes back into all today and into Monday. To have shot down 1 helicopter and 4 drones, and claims, without producing any evidence, keep in mind, that Kyiv is carrying out forced mobilizations in the Donetsk region, including confiscating private vehicles for the use in military formations. Again, they haven't provided any evidence of this happening. And again, I like to take everything that comes from the Russian forces, from the Russian press releases, more specifically, with a grain of salt. The governor of Russia's Bryansk region, Alexander Bogomaz, has said that the village of Novi Yurakovichi was shelled from Ukrainian territory. He reported there were no casualties, but posted to Telegram an image of damage to a road. The village is to the north of Ukraine's Chernihiv region, close to where the borders of Ukraine, Russia, and Belarus meet. And a little bit of some interesting news here coming from North Korea. North Korea could send workers to 2 Russian-controlled territories in eastern Ukraine, according to Russia's ambassador in Pyongyang. His comments come days after North Korea became one of the only of a few countries to recognize the 2 territories, accusing the Ukrainian government of being part of Washington's, quote, hostile stance towards Pyongyang. I hope to have more updates on these North Korean workers heading into Ukraine in the coming days. I don't know in what capacity they will be sent to the country, but we hope to get more information on that soon. The United States will continue to provide intelligence to Ukraine, as they have reiterated multiple times over the past few months. Despite recent changes in Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky's inner circle, the U.S. State Department said on Monday Zelensky removed his security service chief and top prosecutor from office on Sunday. U.S. Department spokesperson Ned Price says, quote, "We invest not in personalities, we invest in institutions. We do have an intelligence-sharing relationship with our Ukrainian counterparts. We continue to proceed ahead with that." Again, that came from that U.S. State Department spokesperson Ned Price in a statement earlier today. Ukraine's First Lady, Olena Zelenskaya, met the U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken on Monday as she began a series of high-profile appearances in Washington that will include a session with U.S. counterpart Jill Biden in the coming days. Russia's Gazprom has told customers in Europe it can, quote, not guarantee gas supplies because of extraordinary, quote, extraordinary circumstances. According to a letter seen by Reuters, the Russian state gas monopoly said it was declaring force majeure on supplies starting from the 14th of June. So again, they are reiterating here that they might not be able to start sending fuel to Europe or continue to send fuel to Europe, again, due to these, quote, extraordinary circumstances. As I have speculated multiple times over the past few weeks, I almost guarantee that in the coming weeks we're going to see a complete shutoff of fuel and energy coming from Russia's Gazprom into Europe. Turkey has said a meeting with Ukraine, Russia, and the UN this week to discuss resuming of Ukraine's Black Sea grain exports is, quote, probable, while a Turkish official said lingering small problems should be overcome. Again, we hope to have more information on that in the coming weeks. And one of our polls from last week asked our viewers if you guys thought that these negotiations would be successful and that we would see a kind of a lessening of this global food crisis. However, the poll was overwhelmingly in disagreement with that, saying that most of you do not think that these negotiations will be fruitful in, again, resolving this food crisis, which is ongoing. Erdogan has threatened once again to freeze Sweden and Finland's NATO bids unless the military alliance complies with his conditions. A quote directly from that report: I want to reiterate once again that we will freeze the process of these if these countries do not take the necessary steps to fulfill our conditions. He said last month Erdogan urged the two countries to, quote, do their part in the fight against terrorism, accusing them of providing a haven for outlawed Kurdish militants. Ukraine will break diplomatic ties with Belarus if its forces cross the border in support of the Russian invasion. Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba said in an interview with Forbes, Belarus, quote, Belarus is an accomplice to the crime of aggression. There is no doubt about that. We broke off diplomatic relations with the Russian Federation immediately after the start of the full-scale attack. Relations with Belarus will likely be severed if the armed forces of the Republic of Belarus cross the border of Ukraine, he said. Again, in recent weeks, there's been signs that possibly Belarusian forces are readying to possibly get involved here in Russia's, quote, special military operation. Since the war broke out on the 24th of February, there's been many times where we had speculated that the Belarusian forces were getting ready to move in to Ukraine and to aid Russian forces in the country. However, those, again, didn't come to fruition. However, over the past about week or two, there's been an increasingly heightened sense of alarm by Ukrainian forces on the ground in Ukraine as they have seen signs that that Belarus could possibly be readying forces to move in to Ukraine. Foreign ministers from European Union countries have agreed on another $500 million, that's about a £425 million of EU funding package to supply arms, so that's lethal aid to Ukraine, taking the bloc's security support to, quote, $2.5 billion since February. That's $2.5 billion, actually that's pounds, sorry, £2.5 billion since the war broke out in February. Again, big shout out to everybody that's tuning in tonight. Mother Saki, thank you so much for tuning in. J-Dub, Takey Jakey, Kayuka, nice to see you in the chat, Kayuka. Thank you so much for stopping by this evening. And Miss Tiger Eye 912, don't worry, guys. We'll be getting to all of your posts from over in the community aggregated situation room over on the Discord server here shortly. Putin said it would be impossible to cut off Russia from the rest of the world in a statement he made Monday, adding that sanctions imposed by Western countries would not turn the clock back on Russia's development. He was very adamant on that, even though we've seen some signs that these sanctions are starting to weigh on the Russian economy. However, as I've stated before, it will take time for a lot of these sanctions that have been put in place over the past about 5 months to come to fruition in Russia. EU foreign ministers are discussing a ban on Russian gold imports to further curb funding for the Kremlin's war machine. The European Union's High Representative for Foreign Policy, Joseph Borrell, said the ban on Russian gold was, quote, the most important measure of the latest plan, which is focused on largely on improving the implementation of the already existing sanctions. So again, they're looking to improve the implementation of sanctions that have already been implemented. However, they are looking and discussing a ban on Russian gold imports, which again will further curb funding for for Russia's war machine. The independent Russian TV station, Dozid, has begun broadcasting from abroad. The outlet was blocked in March as the government cracked down on independent media outlets following the invasion of Ukraine. So that about concludes our primary headline topics for this evening. We're now going to hop over into our community aggregated news from our Discord server, our Intel analysts on our Discord server. Before we get to that, though, of course, we're going to end our poll from our YouTube live chat. Again, tonight's poll question is, do you think Ukraine's strikes on Russian ammo depots are starting to have an effect on their combat effectiveness, on Russia's combat effectiveness? If you haven't submitted your vote, really quickly hop over on to the live chat on the YouTube channel and submit your vote really quickly, and then we will end that poll here in just a few moments, and we'll discuss the results. As Mill at Time 0990 says, they've been saying Belarus is going to join for over a month now. It's actually been longer than that. It's been about 5 months that they've been saying that there's a possibility of Belarusian involvement. Again, it comes in waves where they see signs of possible readiness increase by the Belarusian forces, and then, of course, that dies down, doesn't happen. We're kind of in another phase of heightened tension between Ukraine and Belarus right now over the past about 1 to 2 weeks, as there has been some signs, I shouldn't say a lot, but signs of mobilization there along the Ukrainian-Belarusian border. However, we've seen these same signs in the past, and nothing has come of it. So we will have to wait and see how that carries out. Mother Saki with a pronunciation correction, as always. Thank you for these, because again, I struggle with some of these foreign leaders' names and how to pronounce them. She says, time for another one. I haven't given you one in a while. Erdogan is pronounced Erdogan. Erdogan. Okay, I'm going to put that one in the mental dictionary. Thank you so much, Mother Saki, for sending that over. All right, we're going to go ahead and end tonight's community poll in the live chat. And again, tonight's poll question was, do you think Ukraine's strikes on Russian ammo depots are starting to have an effect? An overwhelming 69% of you said yes, and only about 30% of you said no. So an overwhelming 69% of you think that they are indeed having an effect. These HIMARS missile strikes on these weapon caches, on these ammo depots, on these forward operating posts foreign command posts are starting to have an effect on Russia's combat effectiveness. If you guys would like to look at those poll results, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to post a screenshot of them in our Situation Room right now, just so that we can catalog that for future reference. All right, I went ahead and posted that in our Situation Room. Again, we're going to now be hopping over into our community aggregated news from our Situation Room on our Discord server. That's discord.gg/Nemico. Anybody is welcome to hop in there and follow along with these posts this evening. Our first post here, as usual, comes from Kayuka, longtime power poster. Thank you so much, Kayuka, for sending this over. This comes from news.liga.net. Again, it's a Ukrainian website, so I do have a translation here for us. It says up to 11,000 occupiers were destroyed in the battles for Severodonetsk and Lysychansk, says Reznikov. According to unofficial data from the Russian side in the battles for Severodonetsk and Lysychansk in the Luhansk region, the occupiers lost about 10,000 to 11,000 killed and more than 20,000 wounded. This was announced by the head of the Ministry of Defense, Oleksiy Reznikov, during a discussion organized by the Atlantic Council. Among those killed, about 2,000 are militants of the LPR terrorist organization, and 8,000 to 9,000 are Russian military personnel. At the same time, more than 20,000 occupiers were injured. About 6,500 of them are severe injuries with limb amputation. On July 19th, in the Donetsk direction, Ukrainian defenders inflicted significant losses on the occupiers when they tried to advance in the directions of Hyrahorivka, Spirny, and Ivano-Darivka. The enemy retreated in disorder, says this report. Again, thank you to Kayuka for sending that post over. Another post by Kayuka here. This comes from Ukraine Weapons Tracker. I'm surprised these guys are not verified yet, as they've been at this. They've been at it on their Twitter channel here for quite a while, and we've showed quite a few of their posts on reports right back to the 24th of February when this war broke out. As a new photo appears, it turns out that not only was a Podlet K1 radar destroyed in that strike in Luzern, Kherson Oblast, but the whole Podlet K1 system, including a command vehicle and an electric generator, both on Kamaz chassis, were destroyed. You can see some pictures here on screen. Let's go ahead and get over to our main pointer screen here so I can show you guys here a little up close and personal detail here of these destroyed Russian radar systems. As you can see here, they don't look to be in working condition any longer. It says here, 5 hours ago, a valuable Russian 48YA6K1 Podlet K1 low-altitude S-band surveillance radar was destroyed by Ukrainian rocket strike on Novokhovka, Kherson Oblast. It appears that the M31A1 guided rockets were used in that strike. Our next post here comes from Tiger Eye 912. Thank you so much, Tiger Eye, for sending this over. This comes from Reuters. This talks about Iran and Russia's Gazprom signed primary deal for energy cooperation. Let's take a look. Out of London, July 19th, from Reuters, the national Iranian oil company, also known as NIOC, and Russia's gas producer Gazprom signed on Tuesday a memorandum of understanding worth around $40 billion. Iran's oil ministry's news agency SHANA has said in a release. The deal was signed during an online ceremony by the CEOs of both companies on the day Russian President Vladimir Putin arrives in Tehran for a summit with his Iranian and Turkish counterparts. Gazprom will help the NIOC in the development of the Kish and North Pars gas fields, and also 6 oil fields according to the SHANA. Gazprom will also be involved in the completion of liquefied natural gas projects and construction of gas export pipelines. So again, more cooperation between the Iranians and the Russians. Another post here coming from Kayuka. This again comes from a verified source on Twitter at the Kiev Independent. Defense Ministry of Ukraine says Ukraine's preparing to destroy Russia's Black Sea Fleet and de-occupy Crimea. Deputy Defense Minister Vladimir Hryalov told The Times that with the help of Western longer-range weapons, Ukraine will be able to take back the illegally annexed Crimea. Again, only time will tell if they'll be able to pull this off, but we hope that they are able to, again, reoccupy that territory, and we plan to bring you guys further updates on that situation in the coming days and weeks. Our next post here comes from Pyrotech on the Discord server. Thank you so much, Pyrotech, longtime contributor, for sending this over. This comes from Euromaidan Press. This is a Day 146 update from Euromaidan. It says day 146, Nikopol undershelling for 19 hours in a row. Russians carry out 10 strikes in the Odessa Oblast. Gazprom declared force majeure on gas supplies to Europe, as we reported earlier in this evening. Russia might blackmail Europe for helping Ukraine. Europe looks at other sources of gas. Again, a day 146 update there, coming from Euromaidan Press, again posted by Pyrotech in the Discord. Thank you so much, Pyrotech, for posting that in the Discord server. In a very interesting post, to say the least, coming from Yoroko Izo on the Discord server. This comes from yahoo.com/news, so you got it. You know it's good. And again, this one really caught me off guard when I read this earlier today. So Russia says it's losing because Ukraine has experimental mutant troops created in secret biolabs. Again, continuing with the biolab rhetoric, which we have seen many times and disproven here on the show many times since the war has began. Again, we've talked about that a lot, and I'll go ahead and I'll read a few of the paragraphs here from this article. Nearly 5 months into its senseless war against Ukraine, Russia has concocted a wild new explanation for why the Kremlin's plans for a quick takeover fell apart so spectacularly. Of course, we know that their plans fell apart because they overestimated their capabilities, they underestimated the Ukrainian capabilities, and they underestimated the Western arms that were supplied to Ukrainian forces, particularly those anti-tank guided munitions early on in the war. Those were absolutely 100% effective against stopping those Russian vehicle movements into Ukraine. Again, because Ukrainian troops were turned into, quote, superhuman killing machines during a, quote, secret experiments in American-run biolabs, of course, it says here. Never mind the myriad of reports of Russian troops refusing to fight by the thousands, sabotaging their own shoddy equipment, and even deliberately wounding themselves to abandon the war. Russian lawmakers claimed the real setback for Moscow was, quote, drugged up Ukrainian soldiers. Again, I like to reiterate before we move on, before I read any more of this, that this is a textbook Russian propaganda tactic. 110% textbook propaganda. Again, this isn't really directed at the West. This isn't for us, okay? This propaganda is not for the Western world. It's not for the Ukrainians. This propaganda is for Russian citizens, primarily, okay? They don't care what we think. They don't care about convincing us of what's going on there. They care about convincing their own people, okay, so they can continue the war effort against Ukraine. It's very simple. Right? That claim was made on Monday by 2 Russian lawmakers heading up a commission to investigate the, quote, biolaboratories in Ukraine. Again, more propaganda as we have covered many times, dozens of times on the show since the start of the war. Konstantin Kosachev, the deputy speaker of Russia's Federation Council, and Irina Yerovaya, deputy chair of the State Duma, touted what they described as bombshell findings from the investigation, the, quote, investigation. Now get this. It says here, testing of Ukrainian POWs' blood, they claimed uncovered a range of diseases that suggested they were secretly experimented on for military purposes. Again, these diseases, one of the diseases they spoke about is antibodies, that they recovered antibodies for hepatitis A, which I don't know how that would give anybody a upper hand on the battlefield. Nonetheless, it says here, and we see, quote, the cruelty and barbarity with which the military personnel of Ukraine behave. The crimes that they commit against the civilian population, those monstrous crimes that they commit against prisoners of war. Again, I would like to remind you of the report I just gave a few moments ago on how Russia treats detainees and prisoners of war. However, confirmed that this system for the control and creation of a cruel murder machine was implemented under the management of the United States. Yorovaya was quoted telling reporters. So again, another concocted story here. If we could find any evidence for you guys, if we could find any hard evidence of this to be true, I will 100% show you guys it. But so far, I have not seen any evidence of this whatsoever. Again, this is another one of many, one of dozens of propaganda narratives which have been generated by Russia since the war has began. I do like to remind people that when I do talk about propaganda reports like this, that propaganda is as much of a weapon of war as the Kalashnikov AK-47, as those HIMARS missile systems, okay? It's as much of a weapon of war, and not just the Russians are using propaganda. All sides use propaganda, okay, in warfare, all right? The Ukrainians have used their fair share. The United States has used propaganda. The difference between the United States, the Ukrainians, and the Russians are that the Russians are willing to go a step further and manufacture. Okay, they're willing to manufacture evidence. They're willing to manufacture propaganda in a completely different capacity than what we see from the Ukrainians. All right. At the beginning of the war, we saw things like the Ghost of Kiev. Okay, it's a very excellent example of Ukrainian propaganda. Okay, it increases morale. I mean, as we saw very, very much in the early days of the war, that idea spread like wildfire. Okay, it's ideas like that which are used in war on all sides to increase morale and to have a positive effect on forces or a negative effect on your enemy. Right, as I said before, propaganda is much of a tool, as much of a weapon as your machine guns, as your HIMARS missile systems, as your MLRS, as your artillery. Again, thank you to Yoroko Izo for posting that very interesting post in the Situation Room. Our next post here again comes from Kayuka. Again, this comes from Newsweek.com. Talks about Russia failing to protect tanks against U.S. weapons, causing mass losses. Again, I contribute Russia's initial losses. Russia's initial failure in Ukraine was directly due, in my opinion, to a underestimation of Western weapons and the Ukrainians' ability to use them in Ukraine. It says here, Russia is struggling to protect its tanks from weapons sent to Ukraine from the United States, leading to significant losses amid the Russian-Ukraine war, according to a new report. It says here, quote, tanks are supposed to fight as a part of a combined formations, but in terms of how they've been tactically used, Russia hasn't done that effectively. Nick Reynolds, a military expert at London's Royal United Services Institute, told The Times. Our last post this evening, again, comes from Kayuka on the Discord server. This is our latest defense intelligence update on the situation in Ukraine as of the 19th of July, 2022. Alrighty. To get you guys caught up again with our latest defense intelligence report here, it starts with, again, it says Russia continues to commit what are nominally 6 separate armies. Okay? They're committing what are nominally 6 separate armies to its Donbass offensive at full strength. Before the invasion, these formations were estimated for around 150,000 personnel. In recent weeks, Russia has operated with company-sized groupings of around 100 personnel when undertaking offensive operations in any one sector at a time. Russia has struggled to sustain effective offensive combat power since the start of the invasion, and this problem is likely becoming increasingly acute. As well as dealing with severe undermanning, Russia planners face a dilemma between deploying reserves to the Donbass or defending against Ukrainian counterattacks in the southwestern Kherson sector. It also says here, Russia's stated immediate policy objective is to seize all of Donetsk Oblast. While Russia may still make further territorial gains, their operational tempo and rate of advance is likely to be very slow, without a significant operational pause for reorganization and refit, which I believe they are currently in at this moment in time. We've seen almost a pause over the past week, a regrouping of Russian forces. And also we saw the release from the Russian Defense Ministry saying they are ordering Russian forces to re-intensify their strikes on Ukraine. Again, I think it's going to take some time for the Russians to gather enough forces and enough equipment, again, to relaunch a further offensive, especially in the east of the country. And again, this all goes back to those strikes that we're seeing from those HIMARS missile systems on 3 things: ammo depots, weapon caches, and forward command posts. Again, big shout out to everybody that posted all of these beautiful articles and reports in the Situation Room. for today. I know we don't always have time to go over all of them, but for those of you that did post and in the Situation Room, again, thank you guys so much. It's because of you that our community aggregated portion of our news reporting is possible. We're now going to switch over here to our open source reporting coming from liveuamap.com. We're going to get everybody caught up on about the past 12 hours of content here. Again, we have quite a bit actually to go through here. In fact, it stops here at the 7-hour mark, so we might start there if I'm unable to get the rest of these to load. We'll start here at the 12-hour mark. Kramatorsk, 1547 hours. Red alert, aerial threat siren sounding now. You can see where that strike occurred, or where at least those air raid alerts triggered there in Kramatorsk. 11 hours ago, Russian army shelling at Bakhmut. You can see on screen here a picture of the dust rising from that shelling. You can also see where that is located on the map here. 9 hours ago, we have red alerts in Mykolaiv and Mykolaiv Oblast, Kharkiv and Kharkivsk Oblast, Donetsk Oblast, going into the 8-hour mark. Eight hours ago here, it says Russian forces have partially captured Pokrovsky village near Bakhmut. You can see on the map where that is located there. Again, it has yet to be shaded in red, as it hasn't been confirmed that the Russians hold that territory yet, but we have confirmation they have partially captured that village there near Bakhmut. 7 hours ago, air defense reportedly engaged an aircraft near Novokhovka. You can see here a picture of what reportedly is some smoke rising from that downed aircraft. And of course, here it says 7 hours ago, Mykolaiv and Mykolaiv Oblast, you have a more red alert aerial threat sirens sounding. You can see on the map here a few of those siren alerts. All right, we're going to go ahead and we are going to refresh our page here. Scroll down to the 7-hour mark. Here we go at the 7-hour mark. Erdogan, see, I got it right that time. Erdogan, during a meeting with Putin, says Istanbul talks on the export of Ukrainian grain were positive. Again, we're going to have to wait to get more concrete information on that in the coming days. 6 hours ago, from Khamenei, war is a hostile, harsh matter, and the Islamic Republic never favors seeing ordinary people affected by wars. However, in the issue of Ukraine, had Russia not initiated taking action, the other side would have started a war. It says there in that report. Another report from Khamenei, NATO is a dangerous entity. The West is totally opposed to a strong, independent Russia. If the way is open for NATO, it will recognize no limits. If it hadn't been stopped in Ukraine, it would have later started a similar war in Crimea. Five hours ago here, it says Ukrainian air defense shot down an Su-35 jet over the Kherson region. We got a picture here to show you guys of that jet, and also a bit of a video. So let's take a look. Let's get some. I gotta get my desktop audio feeding through so you guys can hear the audio from this video. Let's take a look.
Это что, кого? Наших сбили? Охуеть. А я тебя за что?
Again, this, for those just tuning in, this video reportedly shows. Again, this video reportedly shows a Russian Su-35 jet over the Kherson region shot down by Ukrainian air defense. It's unknown if that pilot ejected from that aircraft. However, I don't see any other reports here of a pilot captured in that region. However, if we hear anything
вон,
about
глянь,
that, I will
стоят
let you
пацаны
guys
тоже
know. You
охуевшие.
can see a very large fireball and smoke plume rising there over the downed aircraft once it had hit the ground. 5 hours ago, White House in a statement says Putin's visit to Iran shows he has no intention of stopping the war in Ukraine. 5 hours ago here, it says Ukraine has the right to go on the counteroffensive against Russian forces in their own country, and the U.S. will provide, quote, the tools and the training for them to do just that, says Kirby, again, U.S. State Department spokesperson. In another White House press release here, it says Putin's visit to Iran is evidence of his isolation and the isolation of Russia. 4 hours ago, U.S. National Security Council official John Kirby says U.S. To send more HIMARS to Ukraine. Ukrainians have been using the systems very effectively, as we have clearly seen over the past few weeks here. Again, that's according to that National Security Council official John Kirby. 4 hours ago here, we have actually a picture of that Russian 48YA61-K1 Podlyat K1 radar system, which was destroyed near Skavidovsk. You can see where that was destroyed here on the map, and a picture on screen of that destroyed radar system. 4 hours ago here, it says the U.S. warns that Russia wants to annex Ukrainian territories it controls, as we've seen evidence of in recent weeks. They've talked about annexing parts of Kherson that have been taken over. Of course, they've annexed Crimea. It's possible that they might look to annex areas in the Donbass as well. 4 hours ago, Russian army shelled Huliapol with howitzers and MLRS Grad fire. Civilian infrastructure was destroyed, and reportedly there are casualties in that area. You can see a picture on screen here of what looks to be possibly some residential shop buildings that were destroyed and on fire, with quite a bit of debris littering the streets. You can see more evidence of the buildings there on fire from that shelling. Again, in Huliapol with howitzers. You can see where that was located on the map here on screen. Again, that is, just to confirm with you guys, that is on Ukrainian-held territory. 4 hours ago, Odessa District Administration confirms a missile strike at one of the settlements in that region. You can see here where that strike reportedly occurred. Again, not sure if that occurred on the water here, or if it was possibly one of these port areas here that possibly got struck. I hope to have more information on that at a later time. 4 hours ago, a man dead as a result of an explosion and fire of 3 fuel tanker trucks at Renny Port in Odessa region. So again, that does give a little context here to that, possibly the same strike which we just heard about there. Again, one person unfortunately lost their lives as a result of that explosion, and of 3 fuel tanker trucks at Renny Port in Odessa region. You can see a picture here on screen of a smoke plume rising from what is reported to be those strikes. 4 hours ago, Putin, in a press release here, saying, we propose to the Turkish side the necessity of lifting the sanctions targeting Russia, which prevent the facilitation of the export of grain. In another statement here from the Russian president, he said, we are ready to export 30 million tons of grain and food and 50 million tons of fertilizers. 3 hours ago, shelling targeted Darhachi of Kharkiv region. LifeCell cellular network is reportedly down as a result at this time. Again, you can see where those strikes occurred. Again, cellular networks are out as a result of those strikes. 2 hours ago, 7 explosions reported outside of Kharkiv. You can see where those are located here on the map, most likely due to shelling. However, we don't have clarification on that at this time. An hour ago, missile, about 1 hour ago, so this is fresh off the press here, missile launches this evening from Belgorod. So that is coming from Russian territory. These are where they were launched, okay, towards Chuihuiv. Again, so they are launching those onto Ukrainian territory. So from here in Belgorod down here to Chuihuiv, missiles have been launched this evening. It's unclear at this time if those have struck, or if those were taken out by Ukrainian air defenses. To cap off our open source reporting here, it says about an hour ago, an American P-8 surveillance planes will fly over the Bulgarian Black Sea territorial waters as part of a new Bulgaria-based Breeze exercise instead of the canceled Ukrainian-based Sea Breeze exercise. Again, that was reported just an hour ago. We might have some activity to look at then when those exercises occur on flight radar. However, I have to wait to get more information on when those exercises are taking place. Again, big shout out to everybody that tuned in for tonight's report. If you guys haven't already, please hit that like button, share the stream. Best way to get this information out to more people. When you are done with that, sound off in the chat not only where you're tuning in from tonight, leave the gas prices behind. I think we've done enough fuel prices, but let me know how hot it is where you guys are tuning in. Where you're tuning in from tonight. Again, a lot of places here in the United States, in Europe. I know the UK breaking records today with temperatures. Let me know how hot it is in your hometown where you're tuning in from. Of course, it's nowhere near as hot to how hot it is in Ukraine at this time. So again, I like to again put that in comparison for people when we talk about gas prices and things like that at the end of the show. That the amount of suffering we're dealing with here in the West is nothing compared to what people are dealing with in Ukraine. But nonetheless, sound off in chat. Let me know where you guys are tuning in from. Let me know what your questions are on Ukraine. If you guys have any comments you want me to read off on Ukraine, and most importantly, how hot it is right now where you're tuning in from. Mother Saki says she's tuning in from Surprise, Arizona this evening, about 115 degrees. God, I don't even know how that's possible. You could cook food at those temperatures. You could probably go outside and cook a few eggs. But I imagine in Arizona the humidity levels are a little bit lower. And so that makes dealing with the heat a little bit more bearable. I say a little bit, very loosely, because again, 115 is hot, and no matter what amount of humidity. However, 115 with high humidity, I think would be almost unbearable. But in some of those drier states, I've noticed, they can get those higher temperatures, and it doesn't feel quite as hot. Some of these northern states, you get 80. It gets 80 degrees, it could feel like it's 100 or 200 degrees because of the humidity makes everything feel considerably hotter. However, 115, Mother Saki, I hope you are inside in an air-conditioned room. Katlenberg says about 80 here where she's tuning in. She's tuning in from Katlenberg. I'm sorry, I don't know if you're a he or a she. However, Katlenberg, nonetheless, thank you for sounding off in the chat there. Katlenberg sounds like a female name, right? Katlenberg, thank you so much for your continued support. Thank you so much for tuning in this evening. It says about 80 degrees there. I can tell you it's about 90 F in my office right now. So yeah, it's a little bit toasty. Little Dickens 2, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Says 105 F, where Little Dickens 2 is tuning in from tonight. That sounds pretty toasty. Miss Tiger Eye 912 says about 93 F in Louisiana. That also sounds pretty toasty down there in Louisiana. I bet the humidity is pretty bad there as well. Barbara Brownell says 103 feels like 105 in San Antonio, Texas. Thank you so much, Barbara, for tuning in this evening. Again, I hope you are inside a air-conditioned room. Same with you, Little Dickens. That's anything over 100. You guys need to stay cool any way you possibly can. Pocket Frog tuning in from PA says 82 Fahrenheit today. Pocket Frog, thank you so much. I hope your frogs are not too hot in that pocket. Special Force Horse, love your username. That's an awesome username. Says 18C in New Zealand. Let's get a quick conversion on there for centigrade to Fahrenheit. I believe that's about 64 New Zealand, 64 degrees. That is wonderful temperatures. I would love to see those temperatures here, and I would love to see the people in the UK. People in the UK get those temperatures, reaching about 100 and, what was it, 104, I think? What was it, 40.3 C? 40.3 C in the UK. That's 104.5 Fahrenheit. That is absolutely ungodly temperatures, especially for the UK. Mr. J. Geezy, thank you so much for tuning in tonight, says West Virginia. Thank you so much for tuning in, West Virginia. In the low 90s with 100% humidity. That sounds pretty unbearable as well. Well, Mr. J. Geezy, I hope you're having a cool evening tonight inside amongst air conditioning. Takey Jakey with a question here says, Nemico Network, what do you think the Belarusians would do in Ukraine if they enter? A new attempt to take Kiev, perhaps? If so, do you think the West and Ukraine are already preparing for this? So to answer the first part of the question, if they do enter Ukraine, they will undoubtedly be supporting Russian forces that are already there. So I don't think they'll be taking out operations in their own capacity. I think they would be fighting alongside separatist forces and Russian forces within the country. And then again, kind of another part of that question, if they enter, we've been talking about that. We've been talking about the possibility that they could. There's been signs that they've increased their readiness level, that they are maybe mobilizing some forces and getting things ready, moving some pieces around. You ask a new attempt to take Kiev. I don't think that's very likely. However, you can never put anything to the side when it comes to the Russian forces. You can't disregard any possibility here, because they did it once, they could do it again, and tactically, strategically, if they did it again, they would be drawing Ukrainian forces away from targets in the east. So it's possible, however, I don't think it's very likely. To answer the last part of your question, you say, if so, do you think West and Ukraine are already preparing for this? I guarantee they are preparing for this. In fact, it is a known fact that they already are preparing for this. The West is preparing for it by continuing to feed intelligence to the Ukrainian forces and what those Belarusian forces are doing north of the border. And then the Ukrainian forces are preparing for this by increasing readiness level and troop placements along the Ukrainian-Belarusian border. Mythical says, tuning in from Georgia, humidity at 83, 78 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's not too bad, but still a little hotter than I think we'd like to see. James Menke says, tuning in from Needles, California, 113 F. Wow, that is absolutely crazy temperatures you guys have out there in California today. I don't know, this global warming thing. A lot of people this week have been saying, man, this global warming thing starting to have some context building here to the whole global warming thing. Again, as these UK temperatures hitting the records, 104 there in the United Kingdom, 113 F. Out in Needles, California, the wildfires occurring everywhere. I don't think the wildfires are as bad as they were last year, at least where I am. However, towards late August, we could see those increase. I remember last year, over a statewide level, multi-state level, you could see it every day in the air, just the smoke constantly. And it covered, half of the United States. When I was traveling last year, you could see smoke almost in every state we went through. There was, some kind of haze in the air from those wildfires. Miss Fishy Fish Eye Eater, thank you so much for tuning in tonight, longtime viewer. It says 84 degrees in Florida. That's pretty dang toasty down there, Miss Fishy. I hope you're staying cool in your fishbowl this evening. Catlinburg, again, thank you so much for tuning in. It says 80 here in coastal Orange County, California. So that's a little bit cooler than Needles, California, where they have 113 degree Fahrenheit. That's pretty toasty. Annette, 83 in Maine. Ucton was 97 F today in California, so also pretty hot. Anna, thank you for tuning in. 87 degrees, 54% humidity, where she is tuning in this evening. That sounds pretty picante as well, or pretty. What's the word here? What's the word I'm looking for? Caliente. There we go. Very caliente. Little Dickens 2 says, I've seen it that hot here in Fresno, California. Miss Tiger Eye 912 says, 93 Louisiana. Humidity is 70%. That's pretty toasty. Tuning in there from Louisiana. Thank you so much, Miss Tiger Eye, for not only posting in the Situation Room, but for posting in the live chat here, letting us know how hot it is down there in Louisiana. Cayuca, same with you. Thank you so much, man, for tuning in tonight and letting us know. 101 here today in Berlin, Germany. But now it is 75, so it looks to be cooling off there. 114 degrees Fahrenheit in my garden today here in the UK, says Craig. Craig1337 GT. Thank you so much, Craig, for tuning in this evening. Again, thank you guys to everybody that sounded off with those temperatures. in the live chat. Katlenberg actually says, no, it's Katlenberg. My wife conveniently is female. Why I am Cheeks, yep, male. Well, Katlenberg, thank you so much for the clarification there. Again, sorry for that. Again, shout out to both you and your wife. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and thank you for sounding off in the live chat there. Tango Down, can't miss you. Says 72F here in the RV. That sounds pretty bearable. That's not bad. 72F is a hell of a lot better than I'm at 91 now in the office. We went up a degree in the past few minutes. Jillian Lips, thank you so much for tuning in. Says hello, Messiah. Hello to you, Jillian. Thank you so much for stopping by tonight. Hugo from LA, Nemico 94 degrees currently. Thank you so much, Hugo, for tuning in this evening. Seprin, haven't seen you in a while, Seprin. Thank you so much for tuning back in. Patty Wack, thank you so much for tuning in. Again, I'm tuning in from the East Coast. It is hot here. Again, as I said, it's about 91 F here in my office. I don't know what my current outdoor temperature is. I'd have to check, but 91 in the office, so that's usually it's about a degree or two either hotter or cooler outside. Mike Berry, thank you so much for tuning in. It says 88 East Tennessee and humid. That sounds pretty toasty as well. Michelle Welch, 86 on top of Missouri, also pretty toasty. Get scrolled through our chat here just to see if I missed anybody. Again, thank you guys to everybody that tuned in this evening. A big shout out to all my mods that are tuning in the chat. Tango, thank you so much for tuning in. To all of my longtime viewers, thank you guys for stopping by this evening. That about caps off tonight's report. We'll be back tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or around 3 a.m. Ukraine time for our nightly report on Ukraine. As usual, right after this report is done live, we'll be uploading it to our YouTube channel for anybody that wants to rewatch it or that possibly missed it. So you can check that out over on the YouTube channel. If you're looking for any of the links to any of our sources or anything at all, you can find it in the description. If you can't find it there, you can find it over in the Discord server. That's discord.gg/Nemico. There's an invite to that in the description below. Everybody is welcome to join the conversation and the discussions that are occurring every day over there on our wonderful Discord server. Thank you guys so much to everybody that is a contributor over there on the Discord server. It is highly appreciated, especially those of you that are power posters over in the Situation Room. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that like button. Best way to get this information out there. If you like the stream, make sure to share it. And again, that's another really good way to get this information out to more people. Some people asked in the chat, actually, what Fancy Hat has been up to. He's been really busy lately with some family stuff. I believe he's between work and family. I believe Miss Tiger Eye says, Miss Tiger Eye 912 says he got married. I actually don't have confirmation on that. I don't know if I'm allowed to tell you guys anything about that. But when Fancy Hat tunes in next time, hopefully we'll get some updates from him. He's still around. He's just been pretty busy as of late. Again, thank you guys so much for tuning in for tonight's report. Join us here again tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until next time, everybody, you're watching Nemico Network.
Something that will change our daily lives. That will change history. 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 That will be the most beautiful day.
Let me